Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. On today's show, Bitcoin whale accumulation trend mirrors 2020 era. Bullish activity after BTC prices off the 81,000 limit today, as she is back to almost 83,000. Rhode Island bill would allow state residents to spend $10,000 monthly in Bitcoin tax-free. Hallelujah! This is what we're looking for. Also, huge news. Blackrock CEO Larry Fink issues U.S. dollar warning and says Greenback at risk of losing world reserve status to Bitcoin, baby. We're going to go through our market watch, Bitcoin technical analysis, all this and so much more on today's show. Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. Today is March 31st, 2025, and Bitcoin back in the green. It's like an up-and-down roller coaster this past couple of weeks. We'll see what happens on April 2nd, which is a Wednesday. With the whole tariff talk, we shall see what happens. But as of right now, Bitcoin definitely pumping on probably some good news. I wonder if it's bounced on the back of Blackrock statements today, which we're going to look at closely later. Right now, let's get into a Bitcoin market watch and technical analysis. As we see the Bitty up very close to 83,000, up 1 and almost 0.25% to 82,911. Ethereum up 1%, 1832. Solana still hasn't gotten back to the green, down 0.75%, 125 bucks. Cardano up 1 and 1/4%, 66 cents. XRP also down 0.7%, $2.09. Doge up 0.33% at 16.5 cents. Looking at the crypto news bubbles, let's actually zoom right in to the hourly, and we see that almost everything is in the green for the hour, including Walrus up 5% just in an hour, Near up 1.5%, Move up 2%. These are just hourly. XRP up 1%, even Pepe and Sheeb up almost 1%. Looking at the day, the Walrus up 27%. Damn. It's a good day. It's clearly a new coin. There's no weekly price on it. So she is pumping up to 89th in total market cap out of all the coins. CRV up 11%. Pepe up 4% for the day. Ton up 6%. Hype up 5%. Zooming out to the weekly, there we see most things are still in the red, 95% in the red for the week. Let's go out to the monthly, and we see exactly the same thing, about 95% in the red for the month, all except Toncoin up 25%, Chronos up 32%. Taking a look at the crypto full market cap, we've got Bitcoin sitting at $1.644 trillion, Ethereum $221 billion, XRP $121 billion, Solana $64 billion, Doge $25 billion, Cardano $23.5 billion, Tron $22.5 billion. Total crypto market cap right now is sitting at $2.64 trillion, with a Bitcoin holding 62.3% of that. Ethereum 8.3% and XRP 4.6%. Crypto Fear and Greed Index shows us we are currently at a 34 in fear. Yesterday was also a 34 in fear, and last week was 46 in neutral. There are approximately 1,108 days left until the next Bitcoin halving in 2028, with 159,670 coins left to mine. Assets worldwide by market cap. Gold not only topped 21 trillion, it's pummeling 21 trillion, 21.233 trillion as it stands right now. Apple 3.3 trillion, Microsoft 2.8 trillion, Nvidia 2.6, Amazon 2 trillion, Silver 1.9 trillion, Google 1.89 trillion, Saudi Aramco 1.724 trillion. There's the biddy number 9, 1.639 trillion, followed by number 10 on the list, Facebook 1.46 trillion. You can currently get 1,208 Satoshis for one fiat US dollar, and the debt clock, US national debt, keeps on ticking, currently at 36,667,700,000,000, which equals to 107,221 per US citizen, or 323,048 per US taxpayer. The big bucks keep a-flying and people keep owing. Let's hope they never come for that money, folks, because they spent it, and maybe one day they're going to come to you and say, we spent it, but you have to pay it. Let's hope that's not the case. There's never a surplus in these budgets. It's a bit ridiculous with so much money floating around. They should do a much better job of equaling things out so this debt just doesn't keep climbing exponentially, literally forever. When looking at the Bitcoin, we do see some similarities with the 2020 Bitcoin halving cycle. Bitcoin whale accumulation trend mirrors 2020 era bullish activity after BTC price bounces off of 81,000. Bitcoin whales gobble up BTC every time it slips to its price range lows, mirroring a bullish trend seen in 2020. Bitcoin price dipped below its ascending channel pattern over the weekend, dropping to 81,000 on March 31st. The top cryptocurrency is set to register its worst quarterly return since 2018, but a group of whale entities are mirroring a 2020 era bull run signal. In a recent quick take post, on-chain analyst Mignolet explained that the market-leading whale addresses holding between 1,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin exhibited a high correlation with Bitcoin price. The analyst said that these entities are resilient to market volatility and show accumulation behavior mirroring patterns of the 2020 bull cycle. Let's zoom in on this a bit here. So we've got the 2020 cycle here, and then as we see leading into this green area, they've got we definitely have prices down, and we see a very similar kind of trend right here where I'm pointing out, and then ideally, 1, 2, 3, we've got the prices jumping. So these are the whale holdings that they're showing, and we see that they're pretty close to mirroring each other. Similar anyway, and they've kind of pointed things out for us here, right? So we've got it doesn't really show total balance, Bitcoin price, 30-day change. It doesn't show which is the black and which is the purple in terms of which is which 2020 compared to now, but it doesn't really matter because they're both pretty much mirroring each other almost to the T, right? If you jump up, there was a bit of a head and shoulder pattern here, then a dip, then a run up, and then a dip, then a run up. And so that leads us into this situation here. So, we all kind of know what happened after that. And let's go into our trading view look, and let's check out and compare what they're talking about. So here is the 2020 Bitcoin halving, and if we kind of take a peek here, very similar. Now I kind of feel like we're still in this range right here. Sadly, it may not kind of come to that, but I really feel like we're here, and we're going to see the next big bump up to this peak coming up. This was, check it out, right at the end of April. Then the dip followed into July, and then the total cycle peak, as it does, peaks right around October, November every single time. And that's been true with every Bitcoin halving cycle. So personally, I feel like we're in this range and not in this range. And this dip we're seeing is this here. And we're going to see this huge bump up. So let's look at the price difference here. So if I get rid of any other comparisons, let's change this to, let's get rid of percent, and let's go with price only. So if we look at this price here, 30,000 right here, and pardon me, yeah, still 30,000 right here, and the peak at 65,000. So we're looking at over a 2x from this point what we're at. So let's call it 82,000. So 165 to 170,000. If we really mimic this here is where we're going to end up. Reasonable, kind of a little lower than I thought where we'd be this Bitcoin halving cycle in terms of the peak. But of course, the second peak, if we get to, what do we call it, 165, 170,000. So then the full cycle peak, we're probably talking about 180, 190, potentially up to 200 for the cycle peak in October time. So, I'm not too upset with that. I really was looking forward to this, what the predictions, all the analysts are talking about, 300,000, 500,000, $1 million. And I think that still will come, but I feel like it's going to come next halving cycle. Having said that, there might be some cool things that happen with all this adoption. All it really takes is for the U.S. to come out and say, okay, we're selling, 30% of our gold and we're buying Bitcoin with it, or, something along those lines. And that cycle peak, instead of this, 170 that I'm kind of showing in terms of historical numbers, could easily, instead of a 2x, it could be, 3x, 4x, 5x, who knows, right? The price could just run. Bitcoin is on its own vector. It's very, very predictable in some ways, but in other ways it's very unpredictable. So let's hope we get the higher of two. In the current bull market, this distinct pattern emerged 3 times and is marked by Bitcoin whales' rapid BTC accumulation, even as retail investors doubted a positive directional bias. These periods were riddled with bearish market sentiment and preceded substantial price surges, suggesting that whales were positioning themselves ahead of the recovery. With Bitcoin started this week on a bullish tip, there are a handful of U.S. economic events that could have an impact on the price. April 1st, JOLTS job opening, a metric reflecting labor market demand. A decline might signal weakness. April 2nd, U.S. tariff rollout termed Liberation Day with 20% and larger tariffs coming on for up to 25 countries. April 4th, non-farm payrolls, unemployment rate, and Fed Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's speech. BTC's immediate point of interest is to flip the 84,000 level into support for a bullish continuation. Reclaiming 84,000 can push BTC prices above the 50-day exponential moving average, which might bolster a short-term rally to the supply zone between 86.5 and 88.5. On the contrary, prolonged consolidation under 84 strengthens its resistance characteristics, which might eventually lead to further corrections to downside liquidity areas in the 78, 76.5 zone. And of course, I said it before, when we got to this low zone here of 76.5, I think my episode was actually named Buy the Fucking Dip. And so, I know I did, and hopefully a lot of you guys did, because if you did, you'd already be in the green on that. There's also some good news. Every day I do this show, there's always something cool coming out with Bitcoin, and Rhode Island bill wants to allow state residents to spend $10,000 a month in Bitcoin tax-free. It's a lot of frickin' money a month. So you can spend $120,000 in Bitcoin a year tax-free. Now, these guys are getting it right. A bill introduced to the Rhode Island Senate would enable the state's residents to spend or sell just under $1,000 in Bitcoin 10 times per month without incurring state capital gain tax. We just talked yesterday about a story which was great, that the French, one of the cities in France, are starting to allow Bitcoin for their buses and trains, etc. Except every time you spent $2 on a freaking train trip, you had to pay capital gains on it. Like, how ridiculous is that, right? Bill S0451, which was introduced to the Rhode Island Senate last month, permits states, residents, and businesses to make up to 10 payments in Bitcoin valued at less than $1,000 per month, or sell the equivalent amount without being subject to state capital gains tax. Oh, so it's not 10,000 a month, it's 1,000 a month. The bill is amended to, the headline reads 10,000 monthly, right? Let's read on. The bill is an amendment to existing state income tax laws, and the exact language in the proposed legislation is as follows. Any sale of Bitcoin by an individual or business in Rhode Island shall be exempt from state taxation if the total value of sales is less than $1,000 per diem. The limit of the state tax exempt Bitcoin transactions shall not exceed 10 sales per the 30-day cycle. And the bill defines a sale of Bitcoin as any transaction in which Bitcoin is sold or exchanged for another form of value, such as fiat or physical or digital assets. The bill also clarifies that this exemption only applies at the state level and that it doesn't affect federal tax obligations. Now it's a little suspect. Under the bill, individuals and businesses who engage with these types of tax exemption Bitcoin transactions are responsible for keeping records of these transactions, including the total value of sales per day, and should be prepared to provide these records to Rhode Island's Department of Revenue for audit or compliance purposes. In a slide deck prepared by the Rhode Island Blockchain Council that was shared with Bitcoin Magazine, Chris Parota, chairman of the council, wrote that the passing of Bill S0451 would help to reduce friction for the digital asset payments. He stated that current tax implications of spending Bitcoin hamper its utility for Rhode Island citizens and stifle economic activity. Parota also noted that the passing of this bill would stimulate blockchain-based economic activity in the state, making Rhode Island one of the states at the forefront of this technology. Exactly. What is more, he also proposed that small businesses accept Bitcoin for products and services as a means to stimulate economic growth. Thus far, no other U.S. states have introduced comparable bills. At the federal level, the only bill that has proposed something similar is the Lummis-Gillibrand Responsible Financial Innovation Act, which provides a de minimis tax exemption on Bitcoin transaction valued up to $200. Yeah, I mean, both of these, Lummis's bill makes sense, and Rhode Island makes sense here too, and I think it would stimulate the economy a little bit, right? Maybe people are saving more in Bitcoin now, and they've got maybe they're poor on fiat money because, who wants to hold fiat? And maybe they're rich on Bitcoin, and so they're basically, helping stimulate the economy. Maybe some people have some bitty kicking around, and they'll be, okay, sure, I'll spend, $1,000 on Bitcoin if it's tax free, but maybe they don't have $1,000 in fiat at this time. So interesting. Also interesting is huge news every time Blackrock talks, folks. I mean, you can't help but not listen. $13 trillion assets under management, and this time Blackrock CEO Larry Fink issues U.S. dollar warning, says the U.S. Greenback dollar is at risk of losing world reserve status to Bitcoin. The CEO of the largest asset manager in the world, says that the U.S. dollar may be losing its reserve status to Bitcoin. In his annual letter to investors, Blackrock CEO Larry Fink says that U.S. dollar supremacy can't last forever and is already being weakened, not only due to skyrocketing debt, but also the rise of digital assets and decentralized finance. Fink says the U.S. has benefited from the dollar serving as the world's reserve currency for decades, but that's not guaranteed to last forever, and nothing ever does. Look, historically, none of the great nations and the great societies lasted forever. I mean, that's why we're at where we are. Like, it's not Rome anymore, right? It's not France. It's not, Genghis Khan times. It's not Grecian times. It's not, you name it. Whoever was conquering the world, Spain. Like, that is the U.S.'s turn. And maybe now it's time for the world to take over, for the people to have a chance, right? The people's money. The national debt has grown at 3 times the pace of GDP since Times Square's debt clock started ticking in 1989. This year, interest payments will surpass $952 billion, exceeding defense spending. So $1 trillion just in interest. By 2030, mandatory government spending and debt service will consume all federal revenue, creating a permanent deficit. If the U.S. doesn't get its debt under control, if deficits continue ballooning, America risks losing that position to digital assets like Bitcoin. To be clear, I'm obviously not anti-digital assets. Far from it. See the next section. But 2 things can be true at the time. Decentralized finance is an extraordinary innovation. It makes markets faster, cheaper, and more transparent. Yet that same innovation could undermine America's economic advantage if investors begin seeing Bitcoin as a safer bet than the U.S. dollar. BlackRock heavily invested in Bitcoin in 2024 with the launch of its iShares Bitcoin Trust, which would ultimately become the most successful exchange-traded fund launch of all time. Fink, who oversees $11.5 trillion in assets at BlackRock, notes how the world's financial system runs on plumbing built when trading floors still shouted orders and fax machines felt revolutionary, opening the door for smoother, faster technology like blockchain-based tokenization. The CEO says, if SWIFT is the postal service, tokenization is email itself. SWIFT, of course, is the international money transfer payment system that has been around for probably since that same amount of time, since certainly the 80s, maybe before that. Every stock and bond, every fund, every asset can be tokenized. If they are, it will revolutionize investing. Markets wouldn't need to close. Transactions that currently take days would clear in seconds. I've been saying it for a long time, folks. And billions of dollars currently immobilized by settlement delays could be reinvested immediately back into the economy, generating more growth. Perhaps most importantly, tokenization makes investing much more democratic. Wow. I'm enjoying what Larry Fink has to say. Interesting. Certainly, he's bang on, right? You know, a friend of mine earlier today sent me a, in this little chat group we've got, sent information, I think it was the year 2000, and it was like the Las Vegas tech show or something, and showing off the coolest new gadgets, and, oh, look, you can get the internet wirelessly right on this here, right? Or, oh, look, here's there was a cool looking watch, which looks so freaking old and bulky, and there was no video on it, but it was 2000, the year 2000 technology. A little Pocket Pro, Windows Pocket Pro, It was like a BlackBerry kind of thing where you can actually watch videos. The guy also was so stoked about his camera in his house that he could now see on his portable device, his little, iPad thing. And now, you've got full streaming, full everything. Like the video back then was black and white. It was so sketchy, it was just jumpy. Now you've got like in your pocket, wherever you are, everybody's got a phone, right? The entire problem with people getting landlines, there were issues all around the world before where, you would apply for a landline and it would take like 2 years to get your landline, like telephone line we're talking, but you could go out and get a cell phone and you'd have a phone number immediately. So landlines, most people don't even have these anymore, right? I know I canceled mine years ago. Like, why am I going to, I've got a cell phone. I need a landline too. Like, the phone rings. It's right here in your hand, in your pocket. So things have changed very fast, and we're also going to see things really change very quickly in the future too with AI. And, with soon what we're going to end up seeing is a complete revolution in how we interact with computers. If you think about it, there hasn't been a change in our interaction with computers since the 1960s. There's this thing here, the keyboard, right? The mouse. This hasn't changed, right? Even on your phone, you've got, it's the same kind of thing. Your keyboard, your mouse. But what's going to end up happening is our entire interaction is going to change. It's going to be more like the little Nintendo Wii, where you're doing gestures and you're speaking into things, and the device is going to be doing a lot more of this work. Additionally, we're going to start seeing AI bots, AI agents. So instead of me dealing with another person, okay, I want to make a doctor's appointment. Instead of me calling the doctor, hey, I'd like an appointment, somebody answering over there, okay, yeah, and they check their computer, their EMR, I've got, okay, we have an appointment for you in 2 weeks, this time. No, it's going to be you saying, I want to call, Dr. Jones and make an appointment for this Friday. Your AI agent will then call the doctor's AI agent. The AI agent will look through the schedule, make your appointment, communicate back with your AI agent, and your AI agent will simply say, your appointment is booked Friday at 2 p.m. So we're definitely going to see a big change in how we interact with computers and with technology. AI is going to play a huge role in that. So back to Fink. Yeah, it's like the fax machine compared to email. So the blockchain has really revolutionized things and made things very transparent. Nothing can be hidden anymore. No more, embezzling. No more bullshit from government. Everything can be there, transparent, clear, legit for everybody to see. So when he says that it's going to take over the US dollar as the world dominant reserve currency, I think he's bang on. And for once, clearly these guys know what they're talking about, folks. We might not be in our, number one on our list in terms of likable people because they're, multi-trillionaires, but we can't look down at them because they've done so well. They're just smart, they've executed, and we should in some ways look up to them. Now this statement, when they're walking down the street and someone tries to ask them a question and they just completely ignore them and have their bouncers like push them aside, yeah, this is why you don't like the guy. But when making statements like this, I feel like he's pretty much bang on, and we're lucky because we even front ran Blackrock, folks. Imagine front running the largest asset manager in the world, and hopefully all of us did it. So kudos and congrats to all of you for beating these guys to the punch. And again, the value of Bitcoin, we went through it. I can't see it going the other way. I mean, if it was going to go to zero, it would have went to zero a long time ago. Now the fact that everybody's starting to adopt it, BlackRock, ETFs, U.S. government, Bitcoin treasury, stockpile reserve, Switzerland allowing you to pay your taxes in Bitcoin. And by the way, historically, the way a currency is adopted, number one, it begins with this volatile kind of way, the way Bitcoin is now, where the prices are up, prices are down, prices are everywhere. Not considered a currency. It's considered a investment tool. Then it gets to the point where prices are stabilized more, and one of the signals of historical currencies is that countries will allow you to pay your taxes with it. And we're seeing that in Switzerland, right? So, and then once the price stabilizes, first it's a speculative asset, up and down, up and down, up and down. Then for it to really become a currency, the price needs to really stabilize. If your currency, you've got 100 US dollars and this is your currency and you want to go buy put gas in your car, and by the time you get to the gas station, the price of the dollar has gone down 30%, and you're like, what the fuck? I can't even, I was expected to put this much in gas. It's not worth that much anymore. I have to put less. People don't appreciate this. They're not going to accept it as a currency. That's why you see the fiat currency, even though we know about all this money debasement, the values are pretty steady, right? Unless we're talking about countries with this hyperinflation issue, but we're talking about a stable currency here. The prices only go up, 1%, 0.5% a day, maybe 2%, but it's not much. So for Bitcoin to ultimately become a currency, we're going to have to see the price stabilize quite a bit more. And I don't know if we ever will. And furthermore, Bitcoin was never meant to really be a currency. It was meant to be a reserve. So if, for example, the way it could work is banks make Bitcoin their reserve currency, right? So transactions are done all the time. Let's say they choose Ripple as their quick, fast coin to do transactions, right? So people make their transactions. You go, you buy your gas, you buy a pack of gum, you buy whatever. In the same way you go with your debit card now and you pay for these things. Money comes out of your bank account. At the end of the day, so this would be your immediate payment. This would be payments that go around, your normal everyday walk of life. But at the end of the day, the bank finalizes these payments in Bitcoin. I could see this happen. They take a culmination of all the transactions that have happened in the day, and then they close their books with their biddy. That I could see happening, right? And then it's just one end of day transaction at the bank in Bitcoin. We'll call it, even for international trades, let's say, right? 100 international transactions are made. 30 go to, France, 10 go to Italy, 40 go to, China, whatever it is. All the transactions accumulate, and that at the end of the day, one final transaction in Bitcoin, end of day transaction, happens from the bank to the other bank in whatever country, wherever it went, China, Italy, Spain, blah, 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 France. This is where I kind of see Bitcoin going as a reserve currency. There's lots of money out there, folks. Remember, there is approximately $900 trillion in assets around the world. So lots of money. Money is abundant. Go out there and get yours. Money is everywhere. It is time that's scarce. So spend your time wisely. Spend less money than when you earn. And if you suddenly start making more money, start saving more money. Don't start spending more money. Start investing when you're young, ideally when you're in your teens or your early 20s, and you can retire when you're 40 or 45. And if you've got a great idea, start that thing today. Start that thing you love. Even if you're not ready, start that idea and things will slowly come together for you. If you found this stream enjoyable, please share, like, comment, and especially subscribe. I am on route to have over 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It'd be great if you follow me on this journey, and I'll continue bringing you the latest news in Bitcoin and the crypto market, and we will see you on the next stream, folks. Thanks so much for joining.